Do you have type 2 diabetes and do you want to learn how to eat pasta and having amazing blood sugars? Then let's get started. My name is Patrick with the Diabetes Management Group. I had pre-diabetes back in 2021 and successfully reversed it in 2022. And I'm helping other people learn how to live their life by eating the foods that they love while lowering their A1C. So for today's topic, it's going to be how to have pasta with type 2 diabetes and improving those blood sugars. Now, I know what people are wondering, or what people may say, where, oh, if you have type 2 diabetes, you can't have any sugars, you can't have carbs, say goodbye to pasta. I want to challenge that belief because there are many people that are out there who are incorporating a hard carb diet or eating pasta while lowering their A1C scores. And I'm going to show you how. I'm going to cover two pasta heavy foods and educate people how to keep their blood sugars a lot more steady while they're enjoying them. And what happens, because the issue with a lot of people about understanding diabetes is that they don't understand it as well as they should, because diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and prediabetes is an insulin resistance issue. It's not having too many carbs, it's not having any other fancy diets in order to regulate it, because our body, it needs sugar. So our muscles, they need it to use up as fuel to keep our joints stabilized, to function appropriately. Our brain needs sugars in order for it to produce enough of the neurohormones to keep our body functioning, to send signals out to our muscles to move it around, to send it to our organs to keep them functioning. And our organs also need sugars too in order for it to function well. The issue with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes is it's an insulin resistance issue where the organs, the muscles, the brain, it's not responding well enough to insulin. So that means the blood sugars stay inside of the blood vessels and it's not able to move into the muscles, into the organs, into the brain, where it can be used up as fuel. So people with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, they need to take a special approach in order to increase their insulin sensitivity to reverse the insulin resistance and reverse their type 2 diabetes and keep it reversed by maintaining those positive habits now. So I'm going to cover the finest establishments, or one of the finest establishments with carb heavy foods, Olive Garden, for its pasta. So I just went to Google and I typed in Olive Garden nutrition information, and here's their nutrition label. So they have a really popular build your own pasta and build your own dish, where I selected a few items that are on here. And generally, they come over and they ask if you want unlimited salads or do you want unlimited soups along with breadsticks. So for the sake of this video, I'm only going to cover it getting a salad as a side and getting the pasta dish as the meal of its own. Additionally, I will be covering Joshua Wiseman's recipe for the cheesiest baked ziti, and I'm doing the simple version, the normal one over here. And the stuff that I am teaching you, you can apply the same principles so you can become informed to manage your diabetes in a safer manner. Because I love carbs. I know plenty of other people who are watching this want to have their carbs again with type 2 diabetes instead of caving into the guilt and shame by binging on those carbs and having an emergency health episode. And I want to prevent that by showing you how to do it more safely. So, because of that, I just go into the nutrition label. You can tell menu item, the calories, so how much energy it's going to give the body. Remember to make sure it's either in a caloric maintenance, so you're having the same amount of calories to maintain your weight, or a little bit less for a caloric deficit, meaning that you're using more calories than what's putting in to allow your body to metabolize things appropriately. It's not a I need to drastically reduce it so much that could put your body in starvation mode and mess up the metabolism cycle, making it even harder to lose weight, lose fat, and actually controlling blood sugars more appropriately. So we want to avoid that and focus more of how can we be in the maintenance or a little bit less to educate that. And of course, you could get that from the calories. There's 9 calories per gram of fat. So here's your fat, saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbs, fiber, sugars, and protein. For me, I am going to be focusing on the total fat, the sodium, the carbs, the fiber, and the protein for these meals. So if someone is dosing for their insulin and need the units for it, and we'll just go with looking at the salad with the signature Italian dressing. And then for the choose your own, I did spaghetti with marinara sauce and the Italian sausage. So you can see these links over here. To make it easier, I already put it in here where the salad dressing with these calories, spaghetti with the nutrition label here, marinara here, and the Italian sausage. I put this into Chat GPT to calculate all that stuff for me. So it's easier for me to look at. And I posted this chart right here. So I am looking at about 1,110 calories. Total fat, it's going to be 61.5 grams. What does that tell me? It means that the blood sugars can increase hours later. It could be 4 or 5 or 6 hours later for the person, or it could be 2 to 3 hours later for the person, because fats and proteins, they undergo a process called gluconeogenesis, where it's converting it from the fat or the protein eventually into carbohydrates or the glucose to increase. So the fat and protein, they undergo a process called gluconeogenesis, where it's a process where the fats and proteins are eventually converted into glucose, which increases the blood sugars in order to transport it to the muscles or the organs or other parts of our body in order to be used up as fuel. So with that being said, the fat is over here, sodium. This is definitely a lot of sodium in my perspective. So make sure to drink a lot more water, because if there's a high amount of sodium, that's drawing the water out of the blood vessels. So it increases how much glucose or blood sugar is in each of the blood. So it would cause blood sugars to become higher. And then total carbohydrates, there's 99 grams. The fiber that's calculated, it's about 9 grams. So what I would do when I'm dosing for my insulin is have the 99 grams of the fiber. I would subtract the 9 from, or I would have the 99 grams of carbohydrates. I would subtract the 9 grams of fiber from the carbohydrates, giving me 90 grams of carbohydrates. And I have about 46 grams of protein and then 20 grams of added sugars in there. So looking at this meal, I would expect this to raise my blood sugars up a bit more dramatically due to the higher carbohydrate content as well as the sodium content. The fat and the protein, it does equal out to reduce it. So one may expect their blood sugar to spike up a bit more. And in order for it to come back down, make sure you drink water between the bites so that it can dampen how high it can go, so that it can blunt how high the spikes can be. And going for a walk before and after having this carb heavy meal. So if someone is wanting to go to Olive Garden or eat a pasta heavy dish, doing the math ahead of time to understand how many carbohydrates are coming in, how many fibers coming in, how much protein and fat are coming in, and sodium that's coming in, knowing those numbers and understanding how the body responds to it, that is the best way in order to manage it appropriately. And that being said, if I were to go to Olive Garden, I'd probably do a workout before going to Olive Garden, whether that's earlier in the day or right before, and then go to Olive Garden, have the food. Generally, I'd have the salad first, and then I drink water between the bites. And with the dressing, if someone doesn't want to have the Italian dressing on there, they could go for the plain one or just ask for a side of vinegar, because vinegar can actually help with blood sugar control while one's out there, while making sure that the salad isn't tasting disgusting and gross, because salad by itself, for some people, it doesn't taste great. So vinegar or another acidic option can be helpful for that, or squeezing lemon juice on the top of it. So what I would do if I was out in an Olive Garden restaurant, I would ask for water and can I have lemons on the side? Then I would squeeze the lemon on my salads for that. So there's that. Recap for this, it's definitely going to raise the blood sugar a bit higher. And you want to calculate for about 90 grams of carbohydrates. And this will also spike the blood sugars later throughout the day because of how high the fat content is from here. So be sure to go on the walk afterwards. And then if the blood sugars come higher about 2 to 3 hours after, try to go on a walk then, or a form of movement or physical activity in order to manage it appropriately. Moving on to Joshua Weissman's Cheesy ZD. So here's the ingredient: a pound of Italian sausage in grams, ground beef, half a pound of it. Try to go for a leaner cut because if there's more protein compared to the fat, that'll cause the spikes later in the day to not go up as high compared to fats. And then salt and pepper, of course, a pound of the ziti, so the pasta shape, sweet onions, garlic, tomatoes, mozzarella, parmigiano, and the full fat ricotta. So I calculated it all together by going onto his website. I just grabbed all this stuff and pasted it into ChatGPT, took a few attempts, and then I auto-populated these numbers over here. And it's about 1,500 calories per each serving for four. The major thing to know about this is be sure to do your own research on these. I just did a rough guesstimate of putting it into ChatGPT. If you really want to take more time to understand it, actually read the nutrition label of each of the foods that you're going to be preparing for yourself and calculate those out. So write down how many grams of fat is going to be in there, how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbohydrates, how many grams of fiber, and then grab all of those together, whatever it says for the can size of however many servings it is, multiply that by that amount of number, and then you just divide it based off of how much it's portioned out. So, for example, if it's the Italian sausage and it's the 1 pound or that many grams, or the ground beef, and et cetera, et cetera, if one serving is half a pound for the Italian sausage and that I'm using the entire thing, that means I would have two servings of that. So I'd need to multiply whatever the nutrition label is of the Italian sausage in preparation for when I actually divide it up for my servings. Being smart about this is good. Additionally, if one doesn't want to go through that process, then using the hand measurement tools, where if you have your cup of a palm, that's about a cup. And then this is thumb size is about a tablespoon. And understanding body measurements for that, that can help as well of calculating how many grams of each thing is in there. So moving forward with this, total fat, about 90 grams, pretty high. Saturated fat is also 40 grams. The thing about saturated fats is that it's solid at room temperature, meaning butter or those other fatty things that are solid at room temperature, that can actually increase insulin resistance due to it increasing the amount of cholesterol or triglycerides or fats within the blood circulation if it's not used up appropriately. So the best ways to use up the saturated fat as fuel is doing aerobic activities such as walking or rowing on a rowing machine, going on a bike ride, doing something that can get that heart rate up between a 60 to 75% of one's heart rate max. That will allow one's ability to use up the fats appropriately and use it as fuel instead of letting it store into the body as increasing the cholesterol levels and those other levels. Cholesterol, it's about that much. Sodium, pretty high amounts. You have 1,800 milligrams, so that's 79% of the value. So understand you want to take water between bites in order to help prevent those blood sugars from spiking like crazy. And then carbohydrates with about 10 grams of fiber and then 15 grams of the added sugars in there. So take the 9 grams, subtract that from 10. So it's about 80 grams of carbs, evened out with the fat, and then about 70 grams of protein from all of that. So my guesstimation with this, due to the higher amounts of sodium and how much more protein and fat is going into it, the blood sugars will not spike as much compared to the Olive Garden meal because there's a higher percentage of the fat and protein to help regulate how high the blood sugars will go, because protein and fats, they take longer to digest. And if it's mixed in with the carbohydrates, it also causes it to take longer to digest. And that's the same thing with fiber. Also does a great job in lowering cholesterol and lowering the triglyceride stuff, lowering the triglyceride levels and improving the body's ability to lower their A1C scores and manage their diabetes appropriately. So because of this meal being a bit more well-rounded from my perspective, based off the ratios compared to the Olive Garden one, I could go on the walk afterwards when I'm done eating this to help improve it. But however, due to the higher amount of calories, I may want to walk a bit more briskly to use up more of those calories and be able to use all these fuels appropriately to keep my blood sugars in ranges. Anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in for this video. If you want more videos like this breaking down how to guesstimate the serving sizes of what one would expect for foods, feel free to comment down below of what food you want me to break out. Feel free to comment down below of what food you would like me to break down next. Aside from that, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for the next video. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share this with someone in need for more content to manage type 2 diabetes and prediabetes while learning how to incorporate the foods that you love. All right, everyone, you have a great one.